You're not tired, you're bored. This week, I tweeted this out. It got a lot of attention, a lot of comments, a lot of people chiming in, a lot of negative reaction as well. And then I thought, you know what? Why not just double down and then turn it into a newsletter and then turn it into a podcast? Because I think that there's a lot of beauty in this statement. There's a lot of wisdom in this statement, but I understand why it upsets a lot of people, because what it does is it really challenges the idea of burnout. But let me sort of paint a picture and let's sort of go on this journey and talk about why I believe sometimes burnout is not because you're working too hard, it's because you're bored and you're not working on the right things. So imagine this. It's 2 a.m., you're staring at your laptop, eyes burning, your back's aching, you're wondering how you ended up here again another week of just working nonstop, and you've been working 60-hour weeks for months. Your friends think you're a workaholic, your family worries about your health, and you are honestly convinced that you're on the brink of burnout. But what if I told you that you're not actually tired? What if I told you that you're not actually on the brink of burnout? What if this so-called quote unquote burnout isn't about doing too much, but about doing too little of what actually matters? So I want to flip everything you think and know about burnout on its head. This is what we're going to talk about today, because there's a very harsh truth that I believe. Burnout isn't a symptom of overwork. It is your brain staging an intervention. I want you to let that sink in for a moment. The exhaustion you're feeling. It's not your body begging for rest. It's your mind screaming for the right stimulation. You're not burnt out. You're bored out of your mind. Now you're saying, how can I be bored? I'm drowning in work. Exactly. You're drowning in work, but you're starving for meaning. You've suffocated under tasks, but you're gasping for purpose. Your calendar is full, but at the end of the day, your soul is empty. This isn't about the quantity of your work. It's about the quality of your alignment. Now, I know what you're thinking. Great. Another self-help guru telling me to find my passion, but stick with me because we're going somewhere radically different. I'm not going to talk about work-life balance because, spoiler alert, it's actually a myth that keeps you mediocre. I'm not going to suggest meditation apps or vacation time or any other band-aids that the billion-dollar burnout industry is peddling. Instead, I want to explore a counterintuitive truth. Sometimes the cure for exhaustion isn't rest. It's finding work so exciting that you forget you're tired. Today, we're going to dismantle everything you think you know about burnout. I want to dive into why work-life balance is slowly killing your soul, how boredom is literally shrinking your brain, and how excitement can actually grow it, why high achievers don't separate work and life and why you shouldn't either, the neurochemistry of excitement and how to get addicted to meaningful work, why setting impossible goals might be the key to reigniting your fire. All of these topics, they're not going to be comfortable, but I'm not here to coddle you with self-help tips, give you the permission to take it easy. I'm here to challenge you, here to provoke you, maybe even piss you off a little, but at the end of the day, I just want you to be better. I want you to be happier. I want you to be more fulfilled. Here's the thing. If you're feeling burnt out, it's not because you're doing too much. It's because you're doing too little of what lights you up inside. So ask yourself this: what if burnout isn't a sign that you need to slow down, but a wake-up call that you need to speed up in a completely different direction? What if your exhaustion isn't the problem, but the solution? It's a forced reset that's trying to point you towards a life of deeper meaning and excitement. What if burnout is the best thing that ever happened to you? So it's time to turn your burnout into a breakthrough. But first, before we start, we have to address the toxic myth of work-life balance. And yes, work-life balance, this holy grail of the modern professional, the supposed panacea for all of our burnout woes. It's plastered across self-help books, it's championed by HR departments, it's hashtagged to death on social media. There's just one tiny problem. It's complete and utter nonsense. That's right, I said it. Work-life balance is a toxic myth that keeps you mediocre, miserable, and ironically, more burnt out than ever. And I know what you're saying. There's no way that can be true. You're already clutching your color-coded schedule tighter and you're taking a look at your mindfulness app and you're saying, Scott, are you saying that I should just work all the time? The answer is no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying something far more radical. I want you to stop trying to balance work and life because they were never separate in the first place. Here's why work-life balance and the work-life balance myth is poisoning your potential. It creates artificial boundaries where none should exist. When was the last time Elon Musk said, hey, sorry, I can't think about Mars right now. It's my lifetime. Life in air quotes. Great. That's not realistic. Great work isn't something you do from 9 to 5. It's a way of being. It's a mission that infuses every aspect of your existence. It also assumes that all work is created equal. The work-life balance dogma treats all work as a necessary evil to be minimized. But what if your work is actually your life's purpose? What if it's the very thing that energizes and fulfills you? Treating your passion like a 9 to 5 job is a surefire way to kill it. It also promotes mediocrity. In the pursuit of balance, we often settle for less in both our work and our personal lives. We cap our ambitions, we limit our efforts, and we convince ourselves that quote unquote good enough is, well, good enough. And newsflash, it's not. It also ignores the power of seasons, one of my favorite concepts. Life isn't a steady state. It's a series of seasons, each with its own demands and opportunities. And sometimes work needs to take center stage. Other times, personal life does. Forcing a constant balance ignores this natural rhythm of a dynamic life, and it also creates more stress than it relieves. The pressure to achieve perfect balance is itself a source of anxiety and guilt. Every moment at work becomes tainted with the feeling of you should be living, and vice versa. It's a lose-lose game. So if work-life balance is a myth, what's the alternative? This is where the concept of work-life integration comes into play. Instead of trying to separate your work and your life, integrate them. Find work so meaningful, so aligned with your values and passions that it becomes an expression of who you are. Make your work a central part of a rich, multifaceted life, not something to be balanced against it. This isn't about working more hours. It's about infusing more life into your work and more work into your life. It's about breaking down the artificial barriers between work, you, and real you. Consider this. High achievers don't strive for work-life balance. They strive for work-life synergy. They look for ways their work can enhance their personal life and vice versa. They don't compartmentalize, they cross-pollinate. A chef doesn't stop thinking about flavors when she leaves the kitchen. A writer doesn't stop observing human nature when he's not at his desk. An entrepreneur doesn't stop seeing opportunities when the workday ends. Their work isn't just what they do, it's who they are. Now, I can already hear the skeptics saying, hey, but what about burnout? Isn't this how people end up exhausted and resentful? But remember our thesis. Burnout isn't about doing too much. It's about doing too little of what excites you. This is where alignment's going to come into play. We'll talk about that in a second. When your work is an authentic expression of who you are and what you value, it does not drain you. It fuels you. The real challenge isn't balancing work and life. It's aligning your work with your life in such a profound way that the distinction becomes meaningless. So here's your challenge. Stop trying to achieve work-life balance. Instead, you should ask yourself, how can I infuse more of my authentic self into my work? How can I bring my skills and my passions from my work into other areas of my life? What would my life look like if I stopped seeing work as something to be balanced against life and started seeing it as an integral part of a life well lived? But before we dive into any of this, let's dive into the neuroscience of why this integration is not just philosophically sound, but biologically imperative. So let's explore a little bit about your brain, how it doesn't actually distinguish between work and play, why that's the key to unlocking unprecedented levels of energy, creativity, and fulfillment. So to get a little nerdy, we're going to dive into the world of your brain on excitement. Understanding this is the key to unlocking levels of energy and creativity that you really never thought possible. Let's kick this off with a thought. We have got this all wrong. We think that our brain distinguishes between work and play, but it doesn't. Not the way you think it does. When you engage in something truly exciting, whether it's creating a business strategy or painting a masterpiece, your brain goes into a state that neuroscientists call flow. And we've spoken about flow a lot, but flow is one hell of a drug. And here is what happens when your brain catches fire. Here's what happens when your brain goes into flow. It's going to start to release some chemicals. So dopamine, you know about dopamine. This is the feel-good neurotransmitter. Well, when you're in flow, your brain releases a ton of it. But here's the kicker. Dopamine isn't just about pleasure. It's about motivation and learning, and it makes you want to dive deeper, learn more, push farther, and it's nature's own productivity booster. Norepinephrine. So this neurotransmitter helps you focus like a laser beam. It filters out distractions and makes time seem to slow down. If you've ever been so engrossed in a task that hours flew by like minutes, thank norepinephrine for that superpower. Anandamide. This is often called the bliss molecule. So anandamide increases lateral thinking. It helps you make novel connections and come up with these innovative solutions. It's like your brain's own creativity enhancer. And then lastly, serotonin. This neurotransmitter gives you the sense of meaning and importance. It's what makes your work feel significant. When serotonin is flowing, you're not just doing a job, you're on a mission. So this is where it gets really interesting. This potent neurochemical cocktail, it's very addictive, not in a harmful way, but in a way that makes you crave more meaningful, engaging work that, again, releases this neurochemical cocktail. It's like your brain has its own built-in burnout prevention system. When you're truly engaged, it rewards you with energy, focus, and a sense of fulfillment. It's not draining you. It's actually supercharging you with these chemicals. Now, another thought that I think is important to cover on the brain is while excitement grows your brain, and we can talk about neuroplasticity and all those things that happen when you are learning, when you're in your zone, when you're in flow state, when you're doing work that's aligned. On the other end of the spectrum, boredom literally shrinks it. So when you're disengaged, when you're doing work that doesn't excite you, your brain starts to atrophy. So I just mentioned neuroplasticity. Your neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to form new neural connections. When you do things that bore you, that slows down. Your cognitive functions dull. You become more prone to anxiety and depression. In other words, that quote unquote safe job that's boring you to tears, it's not just killing your spirit, it's actually damaging your brain. So when you feel burnt out, when you feel that bone deep exhaustion, your brain isn't telling you to rest. It is staging a neurochemical protest. It is demanding excitement, engagement, and meaning. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Scott, I can't just quit my job and go chase my passion. I hear you. And I'm not suggesting that you should. What I am suggesting is this. You have to recognize that excitement is a biological need, just like food and sleep. Your brain needs excitement to function optimally. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. Second thought is you have to start small. So I want you to find ways to inject more excitement into your current work. You can take on a challenging new project. Can you learn a new skill? I want you to approach a routine task maybe in a new and innovative way, but you do have to start small. Third idea is cross-pollinate. Remember the discussion on work-life integration? Use it. Bring your outside passions into your work. Are you a hobby photographer? How can those visual skills perhaps enhance your presentations? If you love playing chess, how can that strategic thinking apply to your business planning? I know that there's a million different examples of this. Find something that makes sense for you. Fourth idea, prioritize flow. Start paying attention to when you enter flow states. What triggers these? How can you create more opportunities for flow in your daily life? If you are doing things that cause you to go into flow, that's good. That means you're on the right track. And fifth idea, this is going to sound very common, but common sense isn't always common. I need you to start embracing discomfort. Remember, growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone. You'll hear this a lot. That slightly uncomfortable feeling when you're tackling a new challenge, that is not stress. That's your brain coming alive. Some people listening to this have not felt that feeling in a while. I get it. It's uncomfortable. That's what you're looking for. So this is your neuroscience approved prescription for beating burnout. Stop trying to do less. Instead, find work so exciting that you can't help but do more. Now, you understand the science at this point. I want to also explore this very counterintuitive truth, why sometimes the cure for more exhaustion can be more work, not less. I know it's going to sound crazy. Stay with me. I want you to see how strategic overwhelm might be exactly what you need to reignite your fire. So to understand strategic overwhelm, first, I have to talk to you about something I like to call the alignment paradox. But before we even get there, I want to paint a picture, tell a story. So I want you to meet Sarah. Sarah is a marketing executive who was the poster child for burnout. 60-hour weeks, constant travel, endless meetings. She was so exhausted, so irritable. She was on the verge of quitting. Her therapist, her friends, even her boss all told her the same thing. You need to slow down, take a vacation, maybe go part-time for a while. Sarah did what any rational person would do. She took a month off, she went to a yoga retreat in Bali, she read self-help books, she meditated, she did everything the burnout industry told her to do. And you know what happened when she came back to work? She felt worse. The same tasks that exhausted her before now seemed utterly soul-crushing. Her productivity plummeted. Her anxiety skyrocketed. She was more burnt out than ever. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In a last-ditch effort to rekindle her passion for life, for work, she decided to take on an ambitious side project at work. She pitched a radical new marketing strategy that had been percolating in the back of her brain. Her boss, seeing her renewed enthusiasm, gave her the green light. Now suddenly, Sarah was working 80-hour weeks. She was in the office at dawn, leaving at midnight. She was working weekends. By all conventional wisdom, she should have been burnt out faster than a matchstick in a bonfire, but the opposite happened. Sarah felt more energized than she had in years. Her creativity soared. Her productivity went through the roof. Even her health improved. She was sleeping better, eating better. She found time to start running again. What the hell happened? This is the alignment paradox. When you are aligned with your work, when it excites you, challenges you, resonates with your values, you don't burn out. You light up. It's not about the quantity of work, it's about the quality of alignment. It isn't just some feel-good pop psychology. Remember our neuroscience lesson. When you engage in work that's truly exciting to you, your brain releases a cocktail of neurochemicals that enhance focus, creativity, and resilience. You're not just working harder, you're working smarter, faster, and with more joy. This state of alignment, it requires more work, not less, more often than not, especially if you're like anybody else who's working 9 to 5 already. It demands full engagement, deep focus, and yes, sometimes long hours. But it's the type of work that energizes rather than exhausts. Now, I can already hear you saying, what about rest? What about boundaries? Aren't those important? Of course they are. But here's the truth. When you are fully aligned, rest happens naturally. You don't need to force yourself to take breaks. Your brain and your body intuitively know when to step back. It's like the difference between forcing yourself to stop eating when you're loving a delicious meal versus naturally feeling satisfied. So what does this mean for you? I want you to rethink work-life balance. So instead of trying to work less, focus on aligning your work more closely with your values, skills, and passions. I want you to embrace strategic overwhelm. So take on a challenge, exciting project, whatever it is. That might be exactly what you need to break out of your burnout cycle. I want you to focus on quality over quantity. It's not about working more hours. It's about filling your hours with more meaningful work. I want you to trust your energy, not your calendar. So instead of adhering to arbitrary work schedules, learn to ride your waves of enthusiasm and engagement. And I want you to seek challenge, not comfort. If you're feeling burnt out, the answer might not be to retreat, but to push forward into something new, some new exciting territory. So the challenge is, think of the last time you were so engrossed in a task that you lost track of time. That's flow state, right? That's the kind of work that made you forget to eat lunch. Don't forget to eat lunch, but that's the kind of work that would make you forget to eat lunch. That's alignment. That's the state that you should be chasing. Now imagine if you could create more of those moments in your work life. Imagine if the level of engagement was your norm, not the exception. That's the power of the alignment paradox. It's not about working yourself to the bone. It's about finding work that's so engaging, so exciting, that it doesn't feel like work at all. It's time to hold up a mirror to yourself, to your work, to your life, and ask some real uncomfortable questions. But this discomfort is worth it, because on the other side of these questions, that's where the magic happens. So I want you to start having really tough conversations with yourself. I want you to start asking yourself the question, are you living or are you just existing? This is all about radical honesty. You have to do something, put yourself through something. I like to call it the creativity audit, where you ask yourself some questions. This isn't just some feel-good, pat yourself on the back kind of assessment. This is hard-hitting. It's no BS. It's a look at whether or not you're truly living a creative, aligned life, or if you're just going through the motions. So to see how aligned you are with your work, I'm going to give you a series of questions. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is absolutely not, and 10 is hell yeah. Be brutally honest. Remember, you're only cheating yourself if you're not. First question, when your alarm goes off in the morning, do you leap out of bed, excited about the day, or do you hit snooze, dreading what's to come? Second question, in the last week, have you experienced a state of flow where time seemed to disappear because you were so engrossed in what you were doing? Third question, Do you regularly have ideas so exciting that they pop into your head while you're in the shower, driving, or trying to sleep? Fourth question, when somebody at a dinner party asks what you do you answer with genuine enthusiasm, or do you find yourself making excuses or changing the subject? Fifth question, as Sunday evening rolls around, do you feel a sense of anticipation for the week ahead or a feeling of dread in the pit of your stomach? Sixth question, does your current work contribute to a legacy you'd be proud to leave behind? Seventh question, are you regularly engaging in work that stretches your skills and pushes you to grow? Eighth question, do you ever find yourself unable to sleep because you're too excited about a project or an idea? Ninth question, do your hobbies and personal interests enhance your work, or do you use them as an escape from your work? And 10th question, at the end of the day, do you feel energized, do you feel fulfilled, or do you feel drained out and depleted? Now I want you to add up your scores, and this is really what they mean. Between 80 and 100, you're living in alignment, but be cautious of burnout from overexcitement. 60 to 79, you have some moments of real engagement, but there's significant room for more alignment. 40 to 59, you're existing, not living. It's time for a major shakeup. And then below 40, you're in the danger zone of burnout and disengagement. So you need to take some immediate action to get your life back on track. Now, if we go a level deeper, if you look at your lowest scoring question, these are your creative or your alignment blind spots. These are the areas where misalignment is sucking the life out of you. I'm going to give you a personal example as well. So when I record this podcast, if I record a lot of podcasts in a week, I get tired. Sometimes, going into the fourth or fifth interview that week, sometimes I'm not looking forward to it, but then I could be inferring the wrong conclusion. So maybe it's because I'm doing too much of the prep work on my own, or I'm doing too much of the posting, or I'm doing too much of the editing. And there's other things that I don't like that are causing my main thing to be less exciting, because the thought of the main thing means that I have to do all of these other things that I really don't like. So make sure that you are measuring the right stuff. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Your hobbies might actually be making your burnout work. And you're asking, Scott, WTF, what the fuck are you talking about? Let me explain. If your hobbies are just an escape from your work, not hobbies in the sense of I'm trying to find better alignment, that's great. But if your hobbies are just an escape, sometimes they can act like a band-aid on a bullet wound. They might provide some temporary relief, but they're not addressing the root problem. True alignment happens when your work and your play feed into each other, creating a virtuous cycle of creativity and energy. It's when your hobbies inform your work and your work inspires your hobbies. That's when the magic happens. So Elon Musk, for example, he had a childhood hobby of reading science fiction. It didn't just provide an escape. It fueled his vision for companies like SpaceX and Neuralink. His quote-unquote work and play are so intertwined that sometimes it's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. Now, I'm not saying that you need to turn your hobby into your job, but if there's zero overlap, absolutely zero overlap between what you do for fun and what you do for work, in my opinion, that's a red flag. It suggests that you're living a very divided life, not an integrated one. So I want you to identify one way where you can bring an element of your favorite hobby into your work. Are you a weekend painter? I don't know. Think about how you can bring more visual thinking into your presentations. If you love playing chess, like I mentioned before, how does that chess strategy apply to your business strategy? Remember, creativity isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the lifeblood of engagement, it's the antidote to burnout, and it's the key to unlocking your full potential and your alignment. Now, if you made it this far, congratulations. You've already shown, honestly, more courage than a lot of people. You stared down the burnout myth, you've embraced the alignment paradox, you've taken a hard look at your own creative engagement. But I want to tackle something even more comfortable that really stops you from achieving alignment and living an unburnt out life. It's your fear of greatness. And yes, I said it. You are afraid of your own potential. And you're going to say, Scott, that's BS. And I'm going to say it's not. Let's dig deeper. Have you ever had a brilliant idea only to talk yourself out of pursuing it? Have you ever downplayed your own achievements to avoid standing out? Have you ever self-sabotaged just as you were on the brink of major breakthroughs? I'm not saying it happens to everyone, but if you answered yes to any of these, welcome to the club, because I've done it to myself before. You're suffering from a common but rarely discussed ailment, greatness anxiety. Here's a very uncomfortable truth. Your comfort zone isn't comfortable because it's pleasant. It's comfortable because it's safe. It's predictable. It doesn't demand greatness from you. But here's the kicker. That comfort is killing you. It's the real source of your burnout, your frustrations, your sense of unfulfillment. Stress isn't your enemy. Comfort is your enemy. We've been conditioned to believe that stress is bad and comfort is good. But what if it's backwards? What if the stress of pursuing audacious goals is exactly what you need to feel alive? This is where I love the concept of productive anxiety. Productive anxiety is the sweet spot between comfort and panic. And forget the word anxiety if there's a negative connotation associated with it, because it doesn't matter. I want you to understand what I'm trying to communicate. I want you to be in the state where you're stretched but not broken, challenged but not overwhelmed. It's a kind of stress that makes you feel alive, energized, and fully engaged. And the best way to cultivate some productive anxiety is to set goals that terrify you. I want you to set impossible goals. I want you to dream outrageously. I want you to think of a goal so big it makes you laugh nervously, something you're almost embarrassed to say out loud. Good? Great. Now double it. I want you to embrace fear. So that knot in your stomach, that voice in your head saying that's impossible, good. That's your comfort zone screaming in terror. It means you're on the right track. I want you to reverse engineer. So I want you to break that impossible goal down into smaller, actionable steps. What would you need to do this year, this month, this week, today to move towards that goal? And then I want you to act immediately. Do something, anything towards that goal right now. Send an email, make a call, write a plan. Action cures fear, and then celebrate the attempt. The goal isn't actually to achieve the impossible, though you might surprise yourself. The goal is to expand your notion of what's possible. Here's a great example. Meet Tom, mid-level manager at a tech company. Tom's impossible goal was to deliver a TED Talk within a year, despite having a mortal fear of public speaking. So was that realistic? Probably not, but here's what happened. Tom started taking improv classes to get comfortable thinking on his feet. He joined Toastmasters and gave his first speech. Terrifying, but he survived. He reached out to local conferences and offered to speak. Most ignored him. One said yes. He studied the structure of TED Talks and started crafting his own. He hired a speaking coach to refine his delivery. A year later, had Tom given a TED Talk? No, but he had overcome his fear of public speaking, delivered keynotes at 3 industry conferences, started a YouTube channel sharing his expertise, which caught the attention of his company's leadership, got promoted to a senior leadership position, partly due to his improved communication skills. Tom didn't achieve his impossible goal, but in pursuing it, he achieved things he never thought possible, and that's the power of productive anxiety, of impossible goals. It pushes you far beyond what you think you're capable of, and this is how you start to find alignment. Now, you're going to say, well, what if I fail? What if I make an idiot out of myself? Well, I need you to start seeing failure as data, not defeat. Every failure in pursuit of an audacious goal, an impossible goal, is actually priceless feedback. It's not a sign that you should stop. It's a guidebook for how you should adjust your approach. Remember, the opposite of success isn't failure, it's stagnation. So I want you to set an impossible goal. I want you to write it down. I want you to think of something so audacious it makes you a little bit nauseous. Tell someone about it, and then take one action, no matter how small, towards that goal today. That's going to break you out of your comfort zone. That's going to help you find alignment. Now, if you made it this far, I know you're not just watching to watch. You want to transform your relationship with work, with creativity, with alignment, with purpose. You need alignment. You reject the traditional concept of burnout. But commitment to these ideas isn't enough. You need strategies, some radical ones, the impossible goal, maybe some others. I need you to forget everything you've read in conventional productivity books. I want to dive into some techniques that might seem counterintuitive, that might seem a little crazy, but ultimately they're going to help you find alignment and reignite your creative fire. The first technique to help you find alignment, which is what we're all looking for in our work, is the burn the ships technique. Eliminate plan B. In 1519, Hernan Cortez landed in Mexico. He ordered his men to burn their ships. The message was very clear. There's no going back. We succeed or we die. Now, I'm not suggesting you do anything life-threatening, but I am challenging you to eliminate your safety nets. So here's how. Identify your plan B, your fallback option that's keeping you from fully committing to your goals, to your impossible goal. Eliminate it completely. Burn that ship. Publicly commit to your goal, making failure socially and emotionally costly. An example, one entrepreneur I knew withdrew her entire life savings and announced to everyone she knew that she was all in on her startup. Super risky. Do not recommend that you jeopardize your life. I said nothing life-threatening, but it did create a level of focus and determination that she'd never experienced before. And the logic is simple. When there's no way out, you find a way through. Second idea, intellectual cross-training. Diverse inputs create breakthrough ideas. Your brain is like a Velcro strip. The more hooks you have, the more ideas will stick. Most people consume information in their field. That's a recipe for stagnation. Instead, identify 5 fields completely unrelated to your work. Commit to deep diving into each of these fields for 1 month each. Actively look for ways to apply insights from these fields to your work. And a good example of this, I worked with my old software developer. He studied Baroque music, entomology, medieval history, origami, and stand-up comedy. And the result, actively look for ways to apply insights from these fields into your work. The point is, be more creative, because creativity actually isn't about coming up with new ideas. It's about connecting existing ideas in new ways. Third idea, turning questions into obsessions. Children ask about 300 questions a day. Adults, maybe 20. We've lost our curiosity, and with it, our creativity. We need creativity. It's a precursor for alignment. Here's how to reclaim it. Every week, choose one question you don't know the answer to. Spend the entire week obsessively seeking the answer. Document your journey. Share your findings, no matter how seemingly irrelevant. And what does this lead to? Well, questions are the answer. The quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. If you ask better questions, you will have better inputs. You'll have a better life. So be more curious in every aspect of your life. Fourth idea, strategic incompetence. This is the power of being bad at things you don't care about. So you have limited time and energy. Using it to be mediocre at things you don't care about is a recipe for burnout. Try this instead. List all your current responsibilities and activities, ruthlessly identify the ones that don't align with your core mission or values, and become strategically incompetent at these tasks. Remember, every yes to something unimportant is a no to something vital that could eventually lead to alignment and some purpose in your life. And again, you being able to reject the traditional concept of burnout. And lastly, the idea sex method, forcing unlikely connections for innovation. Great ideas don't come from singular brilliance. They come from unusual combinations. So what is idea sex? If you're having trouble finding alignment and you're not feeling any sort of creative juices flowing, I want you to write down 10 key concepts from your field on separate cards. Then write down 10 random objects or ideas on separate cards, and randomly pair one card from each set and force a connection. And then you want to repeat this until you have 10 very bizarre connections, and develop each combination into a full-fledged idea, no matter how absurd it seems initially. Remember, what this is forcing you to do is to be okay with the concept of there are no bad ideas in brainstorming. The more absurd, the better. Now let's put it all together. Choose one of these strategies that really resonates with you or scares you the most. Fear is often a compass pointing you towards growth, and I want you to commit to implementing it for the next 30 days. Document your journey. What's working, what isn't, how is your energy changing? And the reason why I want people to pursue impossible goals and to start this journey of finding alignment, because I truly do envision a world where burnout is obsolete. I want it to be replaced by a culture of dynamic, purposeful engagement, of true alignment, because your journey towards alignment isn't just about you. It's about creating a ripple effect that can transform organizations, industries, potentially the world. I mean, when individuals are truly aligned, teams become more than the sum of their parts. Imagine a workplace where everyone is operating at their highest level of engagement and creativity. The result, unprecedented innovation, productivity, and job satisfaction. Aligned individuals, they ask different questions. They see different problems. They create different solutions. This is how industries get disrupted and new markets are created. Your alignment could be the spark that ignites a revolution in your field. As more people prioritize alignment over traditional markers of success, societal values begin to shift. Imagine a world where the question, what do you do, is replaced by what impact are you making? And then the world's biggest problems, climate change, inequality, disease, they won't be solved by burnt out, disengaged individuals. They're going to be solved by aligned, energized, creative minds working at their highest potential. And here's a radical thought. In the world of perfect alignment, retirement becomes irrelevant. Think about it. Retirement is based on the assumption that work is something you endure to eventually escape from. But when your work is a true expression of who you are, when it energizes rather than depletes you, why would you ever want to stop? This doesn't mean working yourself to death. It means creating a life where the boundaries between work and play and profession and passion become so blurred that the concept of retirement loses all meaning. Imagine a world where 80-year-olds are starting companies not because they have to, but because they can't imagine not creating, or where people take sabbaticals throughout their lives to learn, grow, and pivot rather than waiting for a golden handshake. Or the measure of a successful career isn't how quickly you can exit, but how long you can sustain your engagement and your impact. And this isn't just a utopian vision. It is already happening for people who have found true alignment in their world, and it could be the future for all of us. We're standing at the brink of a new economic era. The industrial age valued conformity and repetition. The information age valued knowledge and expertise. But the emerging creativity economy will value something else entirely: aligned, engaged, creative minds. This is a new economy. Creativity becomes the most valuable currency. Adaptability trumps stability. Purpose-driven work outperforms profit-driven work. Collaboration replaces competition as the primary mode of interaction. People who are aligned, who have merged their deepest values with their work, will thrive in this new world. They'll be the ones creating new industries, solving global problems, driving human progress. So where do you fit into all this? If you're listening to this, you're not just a passive observer in this shift, you are a catalyst. Every step that you take towards personal alignment, every conventional wisdom you challenge, every crisis you transform into an opportunity, it all contributes to a larger shift. So I want you to be a living example. I want your personal alignment journey. So when you think about your personal journey to alignment, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be setbacks, there's going to be doubts, there's going to be moments of crisis. But on the other side of that discomfort lies a life of unprecedented energy, creativity, and impact. You're not just fighting burnout. You're not just seeking success, you're part of a revolution, a fundamental reimagining of what it means to live, to work, and to contribute to the world. So the future belongs to the aligned, and that future starts with you today.